The Chris Heasley Show, coming to you from Radio DeBang.
Hello, this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show, and today we're talking about CD9. It's Congressional District 9, which has for the longest time been a Democrat stronghold. The Congressional District owned by Al Green for a considerable amount of time, and now because of the process of redistricting, it's up in the air. It is possibly attainable by a Republican candidate, and the Republicans are in a fierce runoff for that position. Today there is a runoff for Congressional District 9, Briscoe Cain versus Alex Mueller, and we're going to talk about today is a pivotal race. And in studio we have Briscoe Cain. Briscoe, how are you doing today?
Hey Chris, what's happening, man? I'm happy, dude. It's a pretty day outside, you know. Happy to get out of the office. I don't have any windows in my office, so I was happy to at least, get in the car and head over here and look and talk with you, a fellow patriot, and get our message out. I'm grateful for the things your show exposes and kind of brings to life for people. Encourage them to get involved, right? Because just not enough people vote. Not enough people realize what's going on in the world out there. It's affecting their daily lives, and you're kind of running a ministry here. And grateful for it. Yeah,
we're going to get into all the hot topics, the gripping topics. I'm going to bring them to you right now, Briscoe. So get ready, because my first question is, tell me about them big old boots you got on and that beautiful Texas state emblem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, these boots. It's an alligator I shot a few years ago out in Chambers County. But without, I guess, showing it off on TV, I think the origin starts with Governor Rick Perry, who had the seal put on his boots. And so now it's kind of a customary thing. The Texas House members, throw the seal on their boots. And I guess, when you cross your legs or something, your pants rise up and show it. But, it's weird not wearing boots. I wear boots when I block walk. It's better for the ankles, but it's just something I'm kind of stuck to.
Yeah, there's other Texas House members. They put that big old emblem on their boots, but they can't say that they got the animal themselves to make their boots. I think that has to be an incredible story.
Yeah, it's fun. I've got a few other hides I need to send out, and I'm actually waiting on one right now. I enjoy shooting alligator. To make leather goods out of it, you got to get the right size. You don't want something too big. Somewhere around the 5-foot range has the right kind of belly to make some good some good boots. And yeah, there's something about saying, yeah, man, I shot that.
Nice. So is that what you do in your spare time for fun in your pastime? Are you a hunter?
Yeah, hunt, fish. I enjoy bird hunting. Just something kind of social about it, something I grew up doing. But I like big game. I enjoy shooting hog and deer, and I'm an outdoors guy.
Nice. Very good.
I'm the father of 5 boys, right? And so I've kind of got a duty, of course, to kind of pass that heritage on to them and the love for the outdoors.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah. That was actually my next question. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about your family. Tell us about where you're from, where you live now.
Yeah. So right first, I guess, right is my faith. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I've got a wife. Her name's Briscoe Cain. She's also kind of involved in politics. We have 5 little boys that we homeschool. Grew up in Deer Park. Parents who worked in the refineries there. And we live in Deer Park.
Homeschooling, actually, that's how my activism started. I never was a homeschooler, but what happened is that there was a serious affront on our schools during the COVID lockdowns, and I was largely spending time with homeschoolers, and I found myself in alignment with them on so many issues at the state of education, the state of Texas. And so from that position, I sort of started to get out there and advocate for parental rights in the school boards. I have to ask, I didn't know you were a homeschooler. Is parental rights something that is important to you while you've been in the Texas House?
Yeah, absolutely. There's legislation we've worked on, right, with parental consent, whether that's on something like judicial bypasses or whether or not, parents should be aware of whether their, minor child's seeking to kill their own unborn child, to being in charge of what's on their children's phones, right? Of having parental controls and locks and filters to keep kind of the woke stuff and pouring out of their hands. To medical decisions, these are things that are constantly under attack. And in Texas, I think sometimes we take it for granted. And also we think, man, everything's hunky-dory here, and it's not, right? We wouldn't have had to pass legislation like that over these last 10 years if parental rights were fully protected. I think there's been really kind of a movement in the last few years where people are starting to kind of take it back and say, no, my child doesn't belong to the government, doesn't belong to the schools. It's my child, right? Scripture tells us, right, that God's the gift to the parents. And you've got a duty not to abdicate that to the government or to your community. That's your kid, and it's your responsibility. And so I was really excited this last session that we passed Universal School Choice, right? It's the largest day one program. Something, Florida did. They used to be really low ranked in the public education outcome, and now they're number one. And one of the biggest complaints sometimes the left throws at us is talks about that. Not anymore, right? We were about to, in fact, I think applications just closed, and students or families right now are being told that. But the beautiful thing about school choice, and by the way, there's this myth, they call it a voucher. This is not a voucher. It's called an education savings account. But it empowers parents to choose where, when, by whom, and how their child's educated. And it forces competition into a system that doesn't have any. It works. The only people who are kind of, freaking out on it are maybe some that, legitimately maybe don't trust the system. I get that. Or think that somehow it's going to lead government to invading, parental rights. But again, you just say no, and nothing's there to stop government from doing that right now. Thankfully, through a kind of a Supreme Court case some time ago, it recognized kind of this right to homeschool. But there's a lot of states where you have to literally get government's permission before doing that. We don't have that here. But man, look, in Florida, there was a couple of bad schools that closed down. Just like with HISD, it needs to be broken up. I mean, it's too big and it's too clumsy to try and fix. It needs to be smaller. And look, if you're underperforming, I think competition forces you to get your act together.
Right. So as I understand it with school choice, it puts the child and the parent at the focal point of funding. So in other words, that child and that parent gets to decide where they get to direct the fundings that are apportioned to them.
Yeah.
And in doing so, what you would see our schools sort of have to renovate their whole business model to cater to the needs of the child and of the parent. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah. More importantly, is it helps you with parental involvement, right? The number one metric in a child's outcome in their education is whether their parents are involved. And the thing that first kind of brought me to school choice when I was reading about it back in circa like 2016, there was a private school choice kind of voucher program up in Washington, D.C. And the testimonies I was hearing out of were amazing. In order to qualify, you had to be like less than $25,000 a year. These are all single moms, majority African American. Had you polled them prior, they'd say they'd never been to their child's school, they never met their child's teacher. And then when they were empowered, there were these stories of them calling these private schools, different ones, and going, "What are you going to do for my kid?" Right? The parents now in the driver's seat. Now they're involved. Now you've got true outcomes. You've got someone helping their kid with homework because she has a say in it, right? It allows them to shop. And so ultimately what school choice does is it empowers parents to be part of their child's life, right? And think about this for a moment. Not every child learns the same, but we have a system that's created as like a one-size-fits-all, or it caters to, right, the largest denominator. Or in some instances, because of certain laws, they're required to maybe dumb things down or slow down for one person instead of teaching kids how they learn best.
Yeah, I mean, really, the dictating principle right now in deciding where a child goes to school is geography.
Yeah.
And that really makes no sense, because what if you're a child who's more inclined to the arts or more inclined to the math and sciences? And what I hope sort of develops out of this is where you see schools sort of wrap themselves around different specialties, different areas of focus, and we have a more specifically tailored to different needs and interests and talents of children.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was to do. Because who knows their child best? Well, parents know them best, right? So they know what's best for their kid. They're the ones seeing it. Of course, it encourages that involvement, and that's why it empowers parents and children. That's why the states have done it. We see a massive uptick in their outcomes. Again, Florida, until really recently, was the largest program. And, they went from, I think, almost 40 something towards the bottom to number one. The proof is right there in the fruit and the outcomes.
That's an incredible statistic. At the state level, if I understand correctly, there's also been another initiative put forward to put the 10 Commandments in our schools. Are you familiar with this?
Absolutely. I was there. I was part of it. Yeah.
So tell us about it. Did it pass? What's the stipulation? What is the verbiage? Tell us about it.
Yeah, there were some core challenges, of course, and so far we've prevailed. Now the language is kind of simple. It's identical to the Ten Commandments monument that it's there on the Capitol grounds, which itself was part of a U.S. Supreme Court case. And why does this matter? Well, let's think back. Right, you got John Adams pointing out that the Constitution was created for a moral and religious people. That devoid of morality, our system of government doesn't work. There's a requirement for having small government is that the individuals, the citizens, are policing themselves, right? No one's supposed to. We don't need to tell you don't harm other people, don't take their stuff. That's a concept that should come from the community, come from parents, it comes from a moral upbringing. It's part of Western civilization. It's the difference in America and really the rest of the world is because of that moral foundation. And as we noticed, once prayer was taken out of schools and Ten Commandments were taken out of things, we saw a massive moral decline. And I believe that by restoring that or creating the opportunity for it, I think we can turn America back around.
Right. I mean, it's an injustice to deny the fact that there is a serious Christian underpinning in this country that our country was largely built on Christian ethics, Christian values. And to deny that is just not right. Our country is always open to all different types of people and different ideologies, but the Christian ethics were what largely built the formations of the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and anybody immigrating here the right way, even non-Christian, kind of recognize that, right? They recognize, this is that Christian nation that's open to people, and recognize that it's that ethos and that way of looking at the world that's allowed us to be the great country that we are.
So let's get into your race. This is what really is, I think it's one of the most exciting races in the state of Texas right now. I don't want to, the challenges are steep for you, if we could be quite honest.
Yeah.
But tell us about it. What's the state of your campaign right now? What is the state of this race? Give us the full update.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned it being steep, right? And I'm kind of used to being the underdog. I was the underdog in 2016 when I ran against a 14-year incumbent who was ranked the 12th most liberal Republican and squeaked by with 23 votes in a runoff, at being heavily outspent, right? By far more than 10-1, and no one thought we could do it, and we proved him wrong by being the grassroots candidate. And runoffs are that exact thing. And so here we have it. This is the new 9th Congressional District. This used to be Al Green's seat, right? The crazy old man that waves his cane around. We took sometime last year when the Texas legislature did some redistricting, we took 5 Democrat seats and turned them into 5 Republican seats. They're all about essentially a 60% Republican now. This seat used to be 24% Republican. So now it's over on the east side of Harris County, running along the Houston Ship Channel, and has Liberty County along with it. And it started out with 9 candidates. Now there's just 2 of us remaining.
So who is your opponent in this final stage of your runoff?
Mm-hmm. We're never supposed to name them, but I guess I will. It's my opponent's Alex Mailer. Some people may recall her being the Republican nominee in 2022 for Harris County judge, right? In fact, she was kind of chosen for that position because Harris County was seen as a purple county, right? Some people still see it that way and are unsure if Republicans can win it. I think there is hope that we could, but she's a purple candidate, chosen for Purple County, now running in an area. Of course, she doesn't live cosplaying as a conservative, to be frank.
And as I understand it, her campaign war chest, it morphs yours, if I understand correctly. It's considerably larger than yours. Is that right?
Massively, right? So up to March 6th, We were outspent 10-1. Her cost per vote breakdown was $342.99. We'll just call it 343. Well, I was at 38. In fact, statistically, this is no BS. No one spent more and got less than Alex Mueller. And now
she spent $343 per vote.
Yeah.
And you spent 38.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
$300 difference.
Now
almost.
Here we're at, that was about $3.5 million then. It was about 3.4. Here we are now. By my calculation, I think we'll see $7 million today by looking at the amount she's raised plus the dark money super PACs that are pouring in. We've passed the $6 million mark. And it just keeps coming, man. And that's one of the things people really should look past, right? You see this nice, shiny, glossy thing telling you all this great stuff. You should maybe, look into it. And one of the easy ways is you can ask Claude or ChatGPT or Grok, who's behind this. And oftentimes it'll tell you, and I think you'd be shocked, the kind of things that are trying to influence Republican primaries.
So she outspent you by more than 200%, considerably more than that. And the margin between you and her was 1,100 votes. Is that right?
1,400.
1,400 votes. Mm-hmm. So it's
there were 9 candidates, right? And so far, by the way, 5 of them have come over to endorse us, and so none of the other candidates are supporting Mueller. They're coming over to this side. That's where the momentum is, and because they trust that we've got the best interest of the community in their heart.
So how were you able to keep it so close when you were outspent to such an extent?
Mm-hmm. Grassroots, man, by shoe leather. Right? We're in at the bottom of these boots by actually showing up. Something that she can't do. Right? She doesn't live there. She's kind of a tourist in a way.
She doesn't live in your district?
No, it's a normal thing for running for Congress. It shouldn't be normal, but some people don't realize you could live in El Paso and run for Congress in Galveston. In fact, you only have to be a resident of the state you're running for Congress in for a year preceding the election. Meaning, had you moved to Texas by November of 2025, you could run for Congress in Texas anywhere in the state.
Where does she live?
She's in the Heights. Yeah. A little fancy place. Far different from the blue-collar, hardworking taxpayers of the 9th District. Nothing even looks like it, right? But she's fooled a lot of folks with this big money.
I mean, East Houston is nothing but industrial. East Houston is, you drive through there, the roads are broken up because they got so many semis hauling gear across those roads to the different industrial parks. It is blue collar to the core.
Now we're repaving those roads, okay? Right now,
I'm not
225, we're working on it. I get a lot of flack for it. I'm like, it's part of being around the port.
I'm trying
and those trucks, they run heavy.
They do.
They break up the rocks, and it's kind of the cost of doing business, right? This isn't Palm Beach over there. This is the thing that's keeping America running, keeping Texas running. It takes the new 9th District makes up like 24% of the state's GDP, man. That's why we're in Houston. If it wasn't for the ship channel, would anybody live in this really hot, humid, mosquito, hurricane-prone area? No, man. It's because of that beautiful stuff we pull out of the ground and refine right here in Houston. It's about our energy independence. This is what keeps us going.
Yeah, absolutely. East Houston is 100% blue collar. You don't see the skyscrapers. You don't see the glossy buildings, the beautiful downtowns. It is industrial, and I find it that a person who's running in that district has to connect with the blue collar, largely minority, but not entirely. They have to connect with them on an intellectual basis, and if they're living in the Heights, that might be a challenge.
Yeah, well, they're from a different world, and that's why I don't think if anybody's literally watching it that's from there, you may find you probably haven't hung out with her much. She
Alex Mueller, you're referring to.
Mueller has difficulty even carrying on a conversation with regular people. In fact, she kind of detests them and thinks they're below her, right? This is a Harvard graduate, somebody grew up in California. Her grandfather actually created the Golden Globe Awards, someone who hung out at her mom's house in Nantucket for winters and summers. It's from a different world. That may fit in other places. It might be okay in Austin. It might even be okay in blue purple Houston. But this area, my parents worked at those refineries. They're the retirees. I grew up in a mile and a half from the front gate of Shell. Represented this area for a decade in the legislature. I've got awards from the industry here of fighting to protect those jobs. And look, they're good, high-paying jobs with trades and skills, something Our local community colleges do. Things I've done in the legislature is to ensure that we expand career and technology education, right? You can get an HVAC certification coming out of a high school by us. You can become an electrician, plumber, get a welding certificate, because those jobs are ready. And it's something exciting that Texas is making a focus on, and that I think we should continue to focus on, is preparing our workforce for tomorrow.
And just one last question about your primary. Again, how much money did Alex Mueller raise?
Yeah, well, look, we can talk on that one. Like if you're getting a glass of Miller at home, you should probably check the name. I'll give you an idea. Close to 250,000. I think it might be 247. Okay, from a nice sounding super PAC called Patriotic Fund. It's Jeff Bezos. The Democrat mega donor, the guy that gave $100 million to the Obama Foundation. He's now playing in Republican primaries, but of course, he doesn't want anybody to know that. So, they kind of hide the ball there.
What's the name of the fund again?
Patriotic Fund.
So Jeff Bezos funds the Patriotic Fund. He's now finding himself to be a Republican donor where he has serious leftist values.
This is Jeff Bezos. Yeah, he's a commie. And you've got Anthropic, right? The AI data center company is in for about $700,000. You've got a bunch of New York hedge fund managers that have poured in a little over $500,000.
And these are all donations to Alex Mueller's campaign.
All neat sounding things, right? They're super PACs, all outside money coming in here. And, it can be intimidating for some. And some people think, man, it's over. And I have to remind them, look, this is a grassroots thing. People want to connect with somebody that's willing to show up at their door, talk to them face to face. Of course, it can be a difficult thing. But, if you want to fight those things and not just give up, not allow the corporatists to take over, both parties, of course, they're trying to do, I'd say get involved. Wherever you are, get involved with that local party, get involved with a local candidate, show up to the polls and hang out, knock on doors, pitch somebody $5, right? It doesn't be us. If there's a candidate you like, you'd be surprised what that really means.
Well, Briscoe, I think that you pose a threat to the establishment, and that's why the money is pouring into your opponent.
It absolutely is. They want a yes man, right? And if you're wondering where people's loyalties are going to lie, I think they recognize that my loyalties lie with the blue collar folks, the people that are my family, me, right? The community that I reside in, average everyday Texans who can break the mold. And sometimes people just assume that if you're in public office, you must be a millionaire. Often they're surprised to realize that there's regular middle class, working class folks that can break in, and it can be done. You can break through the barrier that tries to keep people like us out. Right, the elites don't want us in there, but I think you can win with hard work, some shoe leather, and the ability to find 25 hours in a 24-hour day.
I think absolutely money is becoming, as information becomes just ubiquitous, money is becoming less of a tool. It's still effective, of course, but it's not as effective. It used to be money was almost the sole determinant in elections, but I feel like it doesn't have the sting, the ability, the potency that it once had. And I think for guys like you who sort of represent more of a grassroots startup type of candidacy, I think it presents opportunity these times that we're in.
Yeah, look, especially in runoffs. Okay, runoffs are just a different creature. These are usually really, really informed voters. They're your kind of Christian conservatives. These are folks that vote every time the polls are open. And look, that's one reason, frankly, your incumbents are in trouble in times like this. That's why I think a lot of people kind of it spelled a possible doom for Senator John Cornyn's race, because he's an incumbent in a runoff. That, puts you in trouble, man.
I mean, these are incredible times. I want to talk about our featured product right now, which is also a product of the times that we live in, the times of the new RFK. I would call the awakening in healthcare that we're having with guys like RFK coming and changing the medium by which we view our bodies and the ways that we heal our bodies. And I'm referring to the X39 patch, quite possibly the most amazing medical technology ever introduced to man. And as I understand it, RFK uses this patch. It is photolight therapy. What it does, it directs light into your body. It triggers what is known as the copper peptide. The copper peptide is the most dominant peptide in the body, and it's a peptide that has an impact on aging to a considerable extent. It triggers that copper peptide and awakens dormant stem cells. And so stem cells, they are the essence of life. When we were babies, we were born, we were flush with stem cells. We were overflowing with stem cells. And with each passing year, with each passing decade, the stem cells go to sleep. That's why we get creases in our skin, why we age, why we get lower back pain, why we get aches, and all these other things as we get older. It's because our stem cells go to sleep. This X39 patch wakes up dormant stem cells. It is not stem cell injections. You know what Nancy Pelosi does? She pulls stem cells from aborted babies and injects them in her face so she looks young again. It's not that. It uses your existing stem cells. It wakes up your existing stem cells and returns you to a youthful state. It's the X39 patch, and it's what it is. I'll show you what it is right here. Here is the X39 patch. I have it on my wrist. It's nothing but a non-transdermal patch. It doesn't have any salves or ointments that it projects into your skin. It just projects light into your skin. The whole concept is, as Christ said, I am the light. Your body emits light. And what it does, it simply redirects the light back into your body and wakes up those dormant stem cells. It today is the fastest growing direct sales company in the world, 2 years in a row. It went from 0 to $1 billion. We expect to break $1 billion in sales in just under 6 years. The product is flying off the shelf because of what it does. The effects are incredible. What this product does, the X39 patch, is it reverses age. Okay, it reverses age. I don't think I need to say anything more than that. It is not anti-aging. What anti-aging is that it means that you still get old. You just look a little bit better as you get old. It's not that. It's age reversing. So the clinical trials were done, and what they had 50 participants wear the patch for 6 months, and then they tested what's called the telomere. The length of your telomere determines your age, and they did it on the heart. And what they found is after 6 months of use, the telomeres got longer to the equivalent of 8.5 years of aging, age reversing. And the impacts are incredible, what it does for people. It heals up aches and pains and soreness in the body. It makes fatigue in the knees go away. For us guys, we have the pressure on our bladder. We have to go to the bathroom all the time. It makes that go away. It makes eyesight clear up. It extrapolates outward on the body in all different ways. Different benefits for different people. Some people, they have gray hair turned back to its original color. Some people have bald spots that begin to fill with hair again. It does a number of things for the body, but the one thing it does, it uses your existing collagen. Just like I said, it doesn't inject anything in the body. It just wakes up what you already have in you. So it's not taking collagen from an outside source. It just wakes up your existing collagen and brings the youth back to your face. It's incredible. It absolutely will make, I know this is important for the ladies out there, it will make you look younger. It's the X39 patch. And to learn more about it, call or text 330-606-2304, or you can inbox me on Facebook, or if you got my cell phone, you can text me, and we'll get you taken care of. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time on that, Briscoe. Briscoe, I think the other reason that you are viewed as an opponent of the establishment is because I think that you do have that ability to connect with the blue collar class. And I think that comes through in your work in the State House. So, since the time, as I understand it, you were a constitutional litigator. And generally speaking, establishment figures, they don't like that piece of paper called the Constitution. And that right there makes you an opponent of the establishment. So tell us a little bit about your early work in law when you were doing this work, where you were essentially defending the Constitution.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, so I guess kind of started out in law school. I was a campus activist, which is, the law school campus is even more kind of negative towards conservatives, right? And the pressure there to conform is even higher. Okay, so this is about whether or not you're going to become an attorney, right? And so you're pressured to conform, be quiet, not talk about those things. So what did I do? I thought I should found the first pro-life law student organization this side of the Mississippi. Later, of course, helping to launch Law Students for Life of America. Also was president of the Federal Society and ran the Republican Law Students Organization. Got married and had kids all at the same time.
A lot of kids, 5 kids.
Yeah. Well, just started. Had 1 or 2 then. But so it then kind of carried on. I wanted to do something with those skills, and I think maybe one of the first cases I had, I want to say it was the Beaumont police officer case. It's going to sound odd that the city of Beaumont told these 5 police officers they could no longer pray together or read their Bible on their lunch break. Now, that was a really kind of an easy one, kind of open and shut. But that carried forward. At one point, I represented a teacher.
Wait, that Beaumont case, you kind of brushed over that quickly. That is a significant case. That's a significant achievement. You know, it's the little wins that build up into bigger things. So you're telling me that the city of Beaumont was taking an attack on these men because they were reading the Bible at lunchtime?
Yeah, it's something you would totally think like, oh, I think we want police officers to probably have that camaraderie, maybe something that would be good for them. And of course, the government does what it can do when it's unrestrained, and of course, be ridiculous or take away civil liberties and go too far. We quickly put them back in their place, and they backed off.
So you won.
Yeah, easy.
Okay.
Now, hey, I've had some losers. I remember one time I was representing a teacher. I want to say it's 2015. She had been fired for refusing to call a little boy a girl's name as his 2 moms demanded. This is back then, right? This is kind of a novel thing. You're now kind of just starting to see it. Doesn't justify it, but no one ever heard of it. I never thought it was going to become a normal thing. But we weren't successful in that one because it was a private school. But I've also done a lot of free
real
speech
quick. So what
litigation.
happened in a private school?
Yeah.
The teacher was told to refer to a boy as a girl. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the teacher didn't want to do that, so you went in there representing the rights of the teacher.
Yeah.
But ultimately, because it was a private school, that school system
won,
and they were forcing this teacher to now follow their dictates, their speech code dictates.
That's exactly right, and it continues. I've represented students on the campus for free speech things. I've during COVID did a lot of litigation there. You may recall Shelley Luther. Someone know her as the Dallas salon owner.
Dallas hair salon. Mm-hmm.
Yep, represented Shelley there at the Supreme Court as well.
Can you tell us about what happened with Shelley Luther?
Yeah, well, look, you may recall this is COVID, and we're all, at least for conservatives, we're tired of the lockdowns and that nonsense. And I think we made heroes in a way, and for a good reason, of people that were willing to defy these lockdown orders and put America back where it needed to be. Hopefully, should never ever happen again. And I hope that everybody will refuse to fall into that trap. Right? It certainly was. One of the greatest tragedies of civil liberties that we've really just ever seen. And somehow it seems like people have kind of just like forgotten about it. Like it was a really weird part of our time. That's in the past. No, it's still possible again, and we shouldn't forget about it. That way we don't repeat it.
Briscoe, I agree with you. It's like we brush over and dismiss what happened in 2020, but I promise you, it's those little moments of heroism that saved our republic, because you were defending Shelley Luther, who is a fierce fighter for liberty. And I promise you, I'm certain that the pressure's on you to shut that down, to go inward, on her case and sort of go against her, shut the whole thing down. They had to be considerable.
Yeah, look, running up against the establishment or going against the government is never popular. Even when it's not your city, and that's one reason, right, all these mayors and local government officials are supporting Alex Mueller. If you're one of the cities in my district and you raise taxes on people, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to invite people to go to the school board meeting. I'm going to invite them to go to the city council meeting to express their concerns, because it's wrong, right? People are already struggling enough. And I mean, if you're having to make decisions on whether or not you can purchase, I don't know, the good stuff at the grocery store, a steak, I'm with you, right? I've just like you, man. I've got 5 kids, a wife, and a mother-in-law that I, work to take care of, and I've had to make those cuts as well. Americans are kind of tired of, being pushed around, and they expect their elected officials to lead and not be friends with everybody. And you can choose to be, friends with all the elected officials. Maybe that's fine, but you're not going to make the impact that you told people you're going to do. And so when I was running for office, I told my voters that I would take this seat from the 12th most liberal Republican to number 1. I did that. In fact, we did it 4 times, a record 4 times. I told them that we would go and fight for life. And I was the author of the Texas Heartbeat Act, that essentially abolished.
You were the author of that act?
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially abolished abortion in Texas. We've continued to do all these great things. The Anti-Red Flag Act, right? I'm sure you're familiar with that. That's where somebody accuses you of being dangerous.
Okay, real quick. What was the name of the act again?
Anti-Red Flag Act?
Anti-Red Flag Act.
That's it. So some call them extreme risk protective orders.
Right.
Like a neat sounding name. This is where someone just, you got a veteran. Maybe he's got some struggles. She's seeing a therapist for PTSD. Next thing you know, someone doesn't like their neighbor and they're saying that person's crazy. And then you've got someone showing up, kicking their door down, shooting their dog, and taking their guns without any due process, without any judicial review. And we've banned that in Texas, and I carried that law. It was something being supported by the NRA, by our friends at Veterans for America First.
You banned the red flag initiative in the state of Texas. It's dead, is what you're saying.
It's gone. Can't do it.
That is a tremendous contribution to our state. Those red flag laws were just such a threat coming. I mean, if I remember correctly, a red flag was called in on a Maryland resident, and the officer showed up and just put a bullet in him right on the spot. And so that the fact that now is gone and watered down the stream is a great win for the state.
Yeah, we're heading the right way on guns in Texas, at least in my opinion. I was proud to be there to help co-author and pass constitutional carry. We've continued to pass things that allow you to store your guns without people forcing you to lock them up. Because by the way, if you have to store your ammo and your guns separately, this is a little silly. Like, tell the guy that just kicked down your door, hold on, wait a moment, let me load.
Can you wait a minute while I get my gun?
Let me load my gun. We've also put in places that protect firing ranges and shooting ranges, because the left would love to treat those as a nuisance and make it harder to be able to practice. And so there's a massive attack, whether that's on frivolous lawsuits against arms manufacturers and gun manufacturers trying to stop people from to exercise that right. And in Texas, I'd say we've done pretty good. I think we're certainly one of the most pro-life or pro-Second Amendment states. I'm proud to be, when I was running, the only non-incumbent endorsed by the NRA, of course, endorsed by National Association for Gun Rights, Gun Owners of America, Texas Gun Rights, and it's something, right? It's part of our culture. It's something I grew up around, of course, kind of a pro-gun household. And this is heritage and things that we have to preserve. And of course, some people don't recognize it. This is not about hunting. It may be shocking for any of you who didn't grow up around gun culture. It's about one very serious thing, and that's to keep the government at bay, to recognize that the citizens will not become serfs.
You brought up, you essentially described the left's brilliantly evil and comprehensive assault on our country, and your defense of guns and guns rights is a considerable contribution to our state. But there was another affront that they had, which was election integrity. They were again. Joseph Stalin said it's not about how people vote; it's about who counts the votes. And again, the left, their brilliance is unmatched, evil and off. Not on a moral level, but the way that they had thought through how to take elections out of the public sphere was pretty considerable. Tell us about your work in that area in defending Texans' ability to have cast one vote for one person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so prior to, so 2021, right, so the legislature, back a little bit, the Texas legislature, we meet on the second Tuesday of January, being in odd-numbered years, right? So we had 2020, we had the election, wild debacle. In fact, I flew up to Pennsylvania, I was in Philadelphia with the Trump legal team. If you heard about the ballots being put in a suitcase, I broke that story, took down that affidavit, did a lot of stuff there. Was part of helping create the what was called the Mike Kelly lawsuit. It went to the Supreme Court. We lost, but hey, that's okay. We helped expose this idea of universal mail-in balloting, whereby they were suspending legislation, just letting anybody vote by mail. You saw some of that here in Harris County with the drive-through and stuff, and so. I've been part of stopping that, but in 2021, I was part of carrying I was the author and chair of the elections committee of carrying the massive election overhaul that we saw. Now, did it fix everything? No, because somehow, obviously, the left, which, it's almost like they don't have jobs or whether growing government's their place of worship, they keep finding, unique ways to mess with us. But overall, the elections are far more secure. It's far more easier to vote and harder to cheat in Texas.
I think it is. Of course, 2020 was.
Yeah.
This
was that bill, by the way, that the Democrats broke quorum and flew off to D.C. If you maybe recall.
What was the bill?
That was House Bill 6, Senate Bill 6, and later called SB 1. Yeah, that was
And what was the bill though? What was it? What was the purpose?
The omnibus election integrity bill. And we fixed things. We ensured that poll watchers could be there. We ensured, that people could be held responsible. That the bad actors would be held accountable. That was a major goal of it. Making it really kind of easy. Standardizing polling hours. So like in Harris County, you have other major counties, excluding some of the small ones, polls are open 7 to 7. You don't get to pick and choose where and when on your own. Choosing, over in the red parts, those are only open 5 hours a day, vice versa. We wanted to standardize it across the board, make it easy and predictable to ensure plenty of time. We literally made more time for people to vote, yet the Democrats ran off to D.C. calling it voter suppression. Look, we just made ballot harvesting a harder thing to do, increased the criminal penalties on that, made it easier to go after these people, because what will happen down the valley is they'll arrest maybe the low-level harvester who would take a plea deal on a small misdemeanor because they were too afraid of the cartel member to tattle on who the really big guy is. And now we wanted to incentivize, so they look, you don't want to go down on this felon. You may want to narc on the organizer. And it's allowed us to go after those things as well. We allowed for you to be able to track your ballot by mail now. Right? You can actually log on to the websites. Harris County has it. All the other, so does Fort Bend. You can find out, where is my ballot, right? You're able to watch it and see that it actually got delivered, or that it got delivered to you. These are transparency things that Democrats were opposed to.
Yeah, they got in their plane and they cracked open the booze and they had a good party, but it was really a sob party. They were sobbing their eyes out.
Right. And if you're one of those people, hey, no offense, if you think that the 2020 elections were free and fair, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It wasn't. But it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, it was. It's gotten considerably better. Our 2020 was a theft. It was the theft of the 2020 election. So you're going onto the national stage now potentially, and one of the things about the state of Texas, of course, one of the things that matters considerably, especially in CD9, Congressional District 9, East Houston, East Harris County, is energy independence. What is the state of energy independence today in the country, and what would your positions be on that subject?
Mm-hmm. I mean, really simply, of course, energy independence is a national security issue, especially as our lives become more entangled with technology and electricity consumption. And so we've had to get it right, and sometimes legislatures aren't reacting until the fire's at their door. If that makes any sense, right? Because there's just so much going on. But Texas is really trying to get in front of this, especially, again, with the continued advancement of AI. We're having a larger, demand in our grid. Of course, some people remember what the Winter Storm Uri and Beryl and all those problems. So Texas, we had to start diversifying our grid. There was too much dependence on the renewables, green nonsense, right? That when it's dark and cloudy outside, solar's not working. When the wind's not blowing, They sold this to people as if it was always windy or was always sunny. Of course, that's not true. But we've begun to make some really record investments in it. And really excitingly is nuclear. I mean, what Texas is doing right now on small modular reactors is revolutionary. A&M's got a thing going on. Of course, there's some privates. This is going to change the game. All right. So eventually you'll start seeing these on the AI data centers. They'll be generating their own electricity. You'll see them on big box stores, on refineries, where they've got a small reactor. By the way, these aren't things that are going to melt down. And some of them are going to be using some old submarine reactors that have been decommissioned using that.
How big are they when you say small?
Yeah, so some of the ones that AM, my understanding, are working on are like the size of a refrigerator.
And it's a small nuclear reactor.
Yeah, and they use a molten salt. You just flip it on and off. There's no risk of meltdown. But also there's a massive myth surrounding nuclear energy. People kind of just think of it as Chernobyl or something where when it was done wrong, it was mismanaged. We know how to do it, and there's nothing more clean, more efficient than nuclear energy, more abundant. And so we've made some investments in that, and I think the private sector's going to continue to do awesome things. We're also just being innovative. You've got a lot of flare gas out in the Permian, right? If you were to go to Midland or Odessa, whether you fly over to drive through, especially at night, you see tons of little candlestick flares burning off that extra flare gas. Well, thankfully, some smart entrepreneurs realized, hey, you know what? We could capture that gas and generate electricity and run some of these things out here in the Permian. So things are looking up, man. Same thing for water. We're making record investments in water. We've got desalination plants being built and coming to Texas. There's one that's coming out to La Porte, a private one. We're building one down towards Corpus. You're also having desal of produced water coming out of oil and gas wells, or some people realize there's aquifers that have there's saline aquifers. If you desalinate that, there's a few good things. One, it provides fresh drinking water for our crops and people. There's also minerals in it, right? There's actually lithium and these kind of nano minerals that are hard to find. We're finding coming from desal. So, the downside is tech has changed our lives. Well, that's for the better or worse, but we're responding to it, I think, really well. And if we're going to attract businesses to Texas, right, we've got to show them that our grid's secure. We've got to show them that our courts can be trusted. We've got to show them that our laws are predictable, and that's what it's all about. That's why Texas has just continued to lead, right? The governor, for the 14th years, received the Governor's Cup. I think we're 20th year the best state to do business. And if you're watching news, you continue to see companies announce that they're moving or relocating their businesses to Texas. That's not by accident.
You brought up so many things that I could talk about for some time. I think that desalination plants are totally underutilized. I know they're considerably expensive. One of the things I always say is that we are taxed, and then they send our money overseas. Can you imagine what kind of infrastructure we would be? That idea, by the way, needs to go away. Tax us to send overseas. That needs to go away, along with the international war agenda. But my point being is that, can you imagine if, rather than sending our money to these deconstructive things, if we actually used them to invest in our own infrastructure, in desalination plants, in enhanced highways, different things like that? It would be such an incredible thing for our country.
Make America part of, I think, making America great again is the idea of building big, beautiful things. I'm not sure the last time we built a big dam or made a lake. It's almost impossible now with regulations. But there's something inspiring about it. That we used to build the greatest stuff. We were innovative. And I think America's headed back in that direction, where we're going to invest in our own selves and not nation build in other countries who hate us, but build America for Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that, critical theory was put on us for the longest time, where we were in this constantly self-critiquing mode, and not in a constructive critical way. They were purposely trying to mentally break us down and destroy us. And of course, you destroy the psyche, you destroy the person. And they were trying to do that countrywide. And I think that's gone. I think the less ideology is largely at bay. And I think that it's okay to dream now. And that's an incredible time in this country.
It's okay to be proud, right? It's one of the things we've been fighting is to get rid of that neo-Marxism, critical theory. Most people kind of know it as critical race theory, but it's broader than that. The idea that we should feel guilty and bad about, quote unquote, our privilege of being Americans. No more. Be proud to be an American. Be proud that you're the best, right? And let's continue to be the best, because it's a rising tide that lifts all boats. By America being the best, strongest, and brightest, other countries want to be like that as well. When we're weak, our adversaries are strong, and the little countries, those little nations, they're weak as well from the bullies. And we have to show them our strength, and we need to continue to invest in ourselves. And our defense should be here, right? Our defense investments should be here. Our bases should be here, so people know not to come mess with Americans.
Well, very good interview. I want to end on one final question for you. I understand that you attained the endorsement of Veterans for America First. Can you tell us what the veterans of this country mean to you? Mm-hmm.
I think I doubt there's a person listening or watching that's not impacted by it, whether it's a brother or a sister or a friend, or someone you grew up with, right? Whether they're doing okay right now. I've got a lot of buddies, and probably in our age group, that aren't, man, that got drug off to fight maybe some wars about some WMDs that did or did not exist, but they didn't complain. They had a job to do, and they come back. Maybe they got some wounds. Maybe they're a little different. And what's neat is we're recognizing that, right? That we also recognize that Vietnam is a real war. And I think Americans are starting to love their veterans even more. And we're grateful for what you did, especially those at Veterans for America First. This is a awesome grassroots organization. They're not paying some dues to some club. They're showing up at the legislature. They're showing up in elections. They're getting involved. And that's how I know them, from them actually showing up and talking to us. Not some lobbyist, not some paid representative. And so, yeah, it's like, if you want to get involved like that, and you're a vet, and you want an organization that's got your back, but also is going to empower you to be your own voice, to go talk to the legislature, whether it's Congress or D.C. or Austin, check out Veterans for America First.
Excellent. Very good. Briscoe, it's been a heck of an hour. So many of those subjects I could have dove down and put this thing out for another hour. Just very fascinating, interesting subjects, interesting times. You're an interesting man. And with that being said, when is this runoff going down? And where can we learn more about you?
There you go, guys. Well, statewide, the Texas Republican primary runoff elections, early voting starts on the 18th, runs to the 22nd. You've got election day on the 26th. Why does this matter? Your next U.S. senator is likely going to be chosen on May 26th. Your next attorney general of Texas is going to be chosen on May 26th. The next congressman for the 9th district is going to be chosen on May 26th. There's countless other runoffs for Congress, for county judges, for judges in different counties. And because of the way we've drawn these maps, they're maybe not likely competitive in November. And so you've got a less than 5% of the population who's going to be making that decision. You should be part of it as well. You can find out more information, though, of course, on BriscoeCain.com. Like, if you Google it, you'll find it. I mean, there's not many other Briscoe Cains except for my dad and my kid, my grandfather. So only one. Should be easy to find. You can find me on X, pretty active there. Of course, on Facebook and other platforms as well.
Very good. Well, again, I appreciate your time. Thank you, and I wish you the best of luck in this upcoming runoff. And this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. We will be back here next week with one more hot topic. Have a great week.